What what are you doing in bed right now? It's midday. Bright as heaven's gate outside. Why are you in bed? Huh?
No, I got tired. I just thought I might sleep the whole day off. But why you in here? Do you think you can read me a bedtime story?
Mmm. Alright. I don't see why not.
Let me just get up here for a second.
Alright. What do you want to read?
Oh, can it be the Three Little Pigs? Or Humpty Dumpty? Or can it be Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone?
Alright. I'm gonna stop you there before your big head implodes on itself from naming more stories. I changed my mind. I'll be picking the story. I was reading this book in the bathroom for a project. Let me just get it. With my realistic, well-defined arm, I will reach into the bathroom and
Try to get the book within it. Come on, come on.
got it.
I don't want to hear that story. I want to hear about Harry Potter.
Shut up. Be good. And don't interrupt. With that out of the way, let's begin. Space, the final frontier. Ever since man has looked up, they've tried to reach for the stars. Unfortunately for man, they figured out that stars burn them. But the next best thing is a space outside of Earth, as well as the moon. After World War II in 1945, the Cold War started in 1947, which had mainly the United States of America and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics try to flex over each other about who had the better government, weapons, and technology. One of these flexes was the space race, which had started at 1955 until 1975. This event in history had both countries see who had the better space exploration technology.
But didn't the Soviets win by having Sputnik in space?
How? Who? Who taught you that? Anyway, yes, the Soviets did win in that regard, but history sees America as the winner because they're the ones to put man on the moon first and bring them back safely. You know that if you stop interrupting. Now I'll give you a very brief and general timeline of the space race's technological achievements into space from the US and Soviet side, which will then end up leading to the moon landing in 1969. I'll try to be quick. Let's begin. In 1957, Sputnik successfully launched into space, making Soviets have their tech in space first. Just 1 month later, the Soviets also put a dog named Laika into Sputnik 2 for a one-way trip into space. Laika was the first living thing in space but sadly died. In 1960, the Soviets also put the first living things in space that successfully returned home safely, and these things were dogs named Belka and Strelka. In 1961, the US had the Mercury Redstone 2 put the first chimpanzee nicknamed Ham in space for about 16 and a half minutes. The Soviets put the first man in orbit, Yuri Gagarin, in 1961. He safely returned to Earth in the Vostok 1. 1 month later after the Vostok 1, in 1961, the US had the Freedom 7, which was rowed by Alan Shepard. This was the first pilot-controlled spacecraft. In 1963, the Soviets made Valentina Tereshkova become the first woman in space inside the Vostok 6. In 1965, the Soviet Alexei Leonov became the first man to go outside of a spacecraft in the Voskhod 2 to do a spacewalk for around 10 minutes. In 1968, the US brought man into orbit of the moon on the Apollo 8 mission with the crew of Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders. And finally, the US put the Apollo 11 on the moon with the crew of Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. It's because of the Apollo 11 mission that history sees America as the winner of the space race.
You say all that, but why is it such a game changer in history anyway, eh?
All will be revealed soon. Now look at this!
Where'd that come from?
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
What you just saw was a clip of John F. Kennedy giving his moon speech to Congress on May 25, 1961. This speech set America to try to land on the moon, which in turn made the Soviets try it too. The second clip was the Apollo 11 going to the moon. The whole world watched in awe to see this spectacular achievement. There was an estimated 530 million people who watched around the globe on Sunday, July 20th, 1969. When the three astronauts came down 900 miles southwest of Hawaii in the Pacific Ocean, they were regarded as heroes in their nation. The control room was going crazy because they just brought man to and back from the moon safely. The US threw a massive parade with millions of Americans participating to celebrate the achievement. Not everything was as simple as bolts and nuts. Yeah, I nailed it. Before the moon landing, a little over 50% of the American population actually wanted to go to the moon. Some saw the moon landing as a waste of money because they wanted to support South Vietnam and the American troops who were there. An estimated $28 billion were used for these space missions in between 1960 and 1973. But when you inflate the numbers for today, they equal $288 billion. A lot of money was used for these missions. But in the long run, going to the moon was great because NASA invented new things from their missions that helped modern life, like computer microchips and cordless tools, which helped the economy. The moon landing was truly a great achievement because the Soviets had the better hand. The Soviets had blueprints to ballistic missiles, which were used to help create rockets to go to space. America didn't have ballistic missiles at the start of the space race because they had no use for them before it. In battle, they would drop bombs by planes because they were very good at it. When the space race started, the Americans had to start from scratch while the Soviets already had blueprints to ballistic missiles, which were similar to rockets. America making it to the moon before the Soviets gave the US more respect and positive opinions about the way their government is run, how strong as a nation they are, and how advanced their technology is. The moon landing affected the Cold War greatly because people were siding with the US more than the Soviets because the moon landing made the US look more superior. To paraphrase, the moon landing made Americans feel proud for their country while making the US look superior to its Soviet counterpart during the Cold War in a political way, social way, and an economical way. The US's space program, including the moon landing, led to many technological advancements that help with modern life. For example, the Apollo 1 mission sadly had 3 astronauts die inside their command module due to a fire. After the incident, NASA was focused on making better fire-resistant suits. On the Apollo 11 mission, the astronauts were able to get flexible fire-resistant fabrics which firemen use today. Also, small camera quality was improved by the Apollo program to let astronauts take high-quality photos while not holding heavy equipment. These small cameras were blueprints for even smaller cameras like the one in my cell phone, except for the fact that theirs were film cameras and not digital. There are many examples of technology that came from the Apollo missions like water filtration and, get this, bridges and shoe shock absorbers. There's a lot. But the story of the moon landing also affected a lot of people today. The moon landing showed the world that the sky is no longer the limit. The story inspires others to try to reach for the stars. 2 European space directors say that they were inspired by the moon landing, which made them choose space exploration as a job. The Apollo 11 mission continues to inspire the younger generation to work on current NASA missions to Mars. So, what'd you think?
It was interesting. But
But what?
it'd be better if the moon landing was real.
How is it fake? How is the moon landing fake? I just told you all about it.
Well, why weren't there any stars in any of the pictures on the moon, huh?
Look, the book explains it right here. Cameras can't expose both bright and dim objects clearly at the same time, with the moon, sun, and even astronauts being the bright and the stars in the background being the dim. Same thing happens in well-lit cities. You can't see stars at all because the light produced from the city overpowers the stars. In order to see the stars, you have to focus on the dim lighting, which makes the other light become brighter and less focused. The reason you don't see stars during the moon landing is because you can't see the moon if you focus on the stars, which defeats the purpose of bringing a camera to the moon if you can't even see it.
Why does the flag wave with no air on the moon, huh?
Easy, even I know this one. NASA didn't want a waveless flag, so they put a mechanism inside the flag to make it wave.
What about the photo of Buzz Aldrin all lit up, even though he should be in the shadow of the lunar module? This was obviously made in a secret sort of stage, you sheeple.
1. Who taught you all this? And 2. Yes, it may seem that Buzz should be in the dark because they didn't use flash on the camera and that he was in the shadow of the lunar module, which was in between him and the sun, but the moon's surface was full of holes and uneven, making the sunlight find a way to reflect off the moon into Buzz. But that still would be enough light to see Buzz this clearly if Neil wasn't to the side taking the picture. The sun's light reflected off Neil's white spacesuit, and if you didn't know, darker colors absorb sunlight while lighter colors reflect, making Neil's suit an effective flashlight for the camera, thus making Buzz properly lit even in the shade. Even the conspiracy theories today about the moon landing show how important it really was, even though they try to disprove it. The moon landing has an importance in history that may not be rivaled because of the big impact it had in the past and now.
Did you have this all planned? Anyway, you in that book really made me see why the moon landing was really important and how it really broke barriers. How about we do another topic, Butch and Benji style, 100 episodes a week? What do you say?
You know what, Butch? That's a pretty solid deal, but to that, I'm gonna have to say, no. You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.